Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, and we're back with the Russian Revolution 1917, or maybe part 6. We did part 5. This is kind of like part 6, but not because it doesn't say part 6, but it's like part 6, right? The Russian Revolution. So yeah, the World War I has just ended, and we're ending, and yeah, we're having the revolution. The Soviets are coming into power here, and yeah, we've seen through the whole series, we've seen some great Czars, some greats, and it seemed like a lot of different views throughout the years. You know how that when different ones took power. They wanted to try. Some of them wanted to try like more European way, and some were more traditional. And wanted to keep things how they were. So, but that's all in the past. We're on to the revolution. But it's a great series so far. I definitely learned a lot. Definitely some loss didn't really go as I really expected it to go, which is always a nice surprise. So yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I think this guy's name is Lenin right here, right? He's kind of like taking control of everything kind of right now and like making everyone rise up. So yeah, let's get into it. Before we do, please like and subscribe if you're new here. Uh, I'd be greatly appreciated. If you're also new here, you should also check out, other videos. We got, Napoleon and World War One and the Crusades, Alexander the Great, all this good stuff. And plus, if this is your first video, you should definitely start at the beginning of this series, But anyways, enough of that. Let's get into the video. I wonder what we're going to do next after this video. Oh. Dun, dun, dun. Huh.
In 1894, Nicholas II became ruler of a Russian empire that stretched from the Baltic to the Pacific, inhabited by 126 million people from 194 ethnic groups. It was a country in which workers and peasants lived in poverty and hardship, while Russia's elite, its imperial family and aristocracy, lived lives of gilded luxury.
Almost fairness, though, right? I mean, wasn't that like, seems like, a lot of countries, all the top people, the kings and queens and, the prince and princesses throughout the years, they always had their, their balls and their dances, while usually you had, I guess, the regular folk, they're all not living the kind of poor life. But I'm guessing in Russia, they're kind of have a lot more, less than, of course, the other countries do. But as far as like the leaders, that happens all the time. At least I think it does. For they always have those balls, and I guess those, whatever rich and famous people do. That happens everywhere. But I guess maybe the people aren't as well taken care of, I guess, as they are in other countries. Anyways.
Lived lives of gilded luxury. There was a long history of struggle in Russia against the injustices of the system. And in 1905, a revolution forced the Tsar to allow the creation of a State Duma, or National Assembly. But its power was limited, and the compromise pleased neither the Tsar nor the reformers. In 1914,
So I'm guessing like the Tsars, basically they probably would have kept power, or at least kept in the public eye, and probably kept everything if they kind of went along with the people, what the people wanted, gave them what they wanted, helped them out, and all that stuff. But the fact that they weren't really helping the people, basically rose up against him. He had no choice but to give up his spot. I think that's kind of like the British monarchy. That's why the British monarchy is still kind of going. They kind of uh you know they kind of went along with the people and just basically kind of did what the prime minister wanted, just so they can keep their status and keep their way of living. And even though they still had powers, they rarely ever used them. And so the people were cool with that, as long as they were kind of doing what they wanted, doing what the people wanted them to do. I don't know. Anyways, I don't know what kind of point I'm trying to make here. I'm sorry.
In 1914, this divided empire was plunged into fresh crisis by World War. World War I was a disaster for Tsarist Russia. At the front, the country suffered a series of devastating defeats, while at home there were food shortages and economic chaos. The Tsar was held responsible for the crisis. After all, he was now the army's commander-in-chief, and he was standing in the way of government reform. His German-born wife, Empress Alexandra, was even thought to be supporting Germany, while the entire family was said to have fallen under the spell of a Siberian mystic and faith healer, Grigory Rasputin. In December 1916, Rasputin was murdered by Russian aristocrats, possibly with the help of British secret agents, both groups determined to end his influence over the Tsar. But in the eyes of many...
I'm sure if you guys, do you think the British were involved here? Yeah? What do you guys think?
Determined to end his influence over the Tsar. But in the eyes of many, the damage had already been done.
Yeah.
On the 23rd of February 1917, thousands of women took to the streets of the Russian capital, Petrograd, to mark International Women's Day and protest over bread shortages.
Oh.
The next day, they were joined on the...
Did we just have International Women's Day? I swear it was like 3 days ago, wasn't it? I was at work and someone brought up, I had no idea, and so someone said something. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of funny how now in this video, even though it's not the day, it's a couple days later that's brought up. I'm sorry, that just came to mind. Like, didn't we just have that at work? Or I mean, everywhere, International Women's Day. Cool. I didn't realize it went that far back, so that's awesome.
For bread shortages. The next day, they were joined on the streets by workers and students carrying placards that read, "Down with the Tsar." Troops ordered to put down the disorder mutinied and joined the protesters instead. Tsarist officials were arrested. Prisons and police stations were attacked. Emblems of Tsarist rule smashed and burned. The government had lost control of the capital. The Tsar was told by his ministers that order could only be restored and Russia saved from military defeat if he gave up power. So, on the 2nd of March, Nicholas agreed to abdicate. In just 10 days, 300 years of Romanov rule had come to an end.
Wow. So when he advocates, does he kind of like just kind of go off and goes to his house to kind of live out the rest of his days, living the good life, just like on a vacation somewhere in his house off in the country? Just, like, because he can't really do much else, so, and still has a lot of money, so I'm assuming that's what he does. What do you guys think?
The February Revolution had been remarkably swift and bloodless, and hopes were now high for the creation of a more democratic, more just Russian state. Members of the State Duma, the National Assembly, had formed a provisional government, which was to hold power until a constituent assembly was elected, to give Russia a new constitution. But in reality, the provisional government shared power with the Petrograd Soviet, a council elected by workers and soldiers that controlled the capital's troops, transport, and communications.
Okay.
The Petrograd Soviet, dominated by the Socialist Revolutionary Party and the Marxist Menshevik Party, was much more radical than the provisional government. Yet it supported the government's decision to continue the war.
Okay. Throughout the war is still going.
Glory to the Emperor! Blood for the Blood God!
And honor the commitments that Russia had made to the Allies. It was a fateful decision that ultimately played into the hands of one of the smaller parties, the Bolsheviks. Their leader, Vladimir Lenin, recently returned from 16 years in exile, bitterly opposed the imperialist war. He also demanded the immediate redistribution of land, from rich landowners to peasants, and the transfer of power from the bourgeois provisional government to the people's soviets or councils that were springing up across Russia. The Bolshevik program was summed up in a simple slogan: bread, peace, and land. And as Russia's economic and military crisis deepened, its appeal to the masses grew and grew.
I can imagine that, though. I mean, you're poor and have nothing and starving, you know, and then someone comes along and here's land, here's bread, you know. You can't blame them for, like, yeah, getting hyped up over that.
In June, a new Russian military offensive ended in disaster, with 400,000 Russian casualties, massive desertions, and the collapse of army morale and discipline. In July, soldiers and sailors in Petrograd mutinied. They were joined in the streets by workers with Bolshevik support. But troops loyal to the provisional government opened fire on the protesters and dispersed the crowds. A police crackdown followed, leading to the arrest of several Bolshevik leaders, including Leon Trotsky, while Lenin, with the help of Joseph Stalin, fled to Finland, traveling with forged papers under the name of Konstantin Ivanov. A socialist and stirring orator named Alexander Kerensky became Russia's new prime minister and was hailed as the man who would save Russia from anarchy. The army's commander-in-chief, General Kornilov, believed Russia's war effort was being undermined by chaos at home and deliberately sabotaged by men like Lenin, whom he declared a German spy. So in August, he ordered his men to march on Petrograd to restore order. Bolsheviks played a leading role in the city's defense against this attempted military coup.
Oh, really?
Their most brilliant organizer, Leon Trotsky, was released from prison and sent armed Bolshevik militias, the Red Guards, to defend key points in the city. Strikes by railway workers, many of them Bolshevik supporters, prevented Kornilov from moving his men by rail, and his soldiers began to switch sides, or simply go home. The Kornilov affair cast the Bolsheviks as saviors of the revolution. And by the end of September, they'd gained a majority in the Petrograd Soviet. In October, Lenin decided the time had come. He secretly returned from Finland to Petrograd and began preparing to seize power.
Oh.
On the 25th of October, the Bolsheviks made their move. Red Guards and loyal troops seized key points around the capital, and that night they stormed the provisional government's headquarters at the Winter Palace, an event later immortalized by Bolshevik propaganda and the great Soviet filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein. Kerensky fled the city at the last moment, narrowly avoiding capture. And the next day, at the Second All-Russian Congress of Soviets, Lenin announced the overthrow of the provisional government.
Wow.
The following months saw the Bolsheviks consolidate their hold on power, while fighting a brutal civil war against counter-revolutionary, or White Russian, forces who had foreign support. Some whites hoped to put Tsar Nicholas back on the throne. After his abdication, Nicholas and his family had been held under guard at Tsarskoye Selo, outside Petrograd, where they occupied...
Oh, yeah, okay, no, this answers my question from earlier, so sorry.
Guard at Tsarskoye Selo, outside Petrograd, where they occupied themselves with gardening and other diversions. In summer 1917, the family was sent to Tobolsk in Siberia, where they lived under house arrest in the governor's mansion. The following spring, the Bolsheviks had the family moved to Yekaterinburg. In July 1918, as white forces approached the city, Bolshevik soldiers gathered the whole family in a cellar. The Tsar, his wife, their son Alexei, their 4 daughters, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, as well as 4 servants, and executed them all.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Russia's Civil War was one of the 20th century's most devastating events. An estimated 2 million soldiers lost their lives, while a typhus epidemic and famine claimed the lives of a further 9 million civilians.
Wow.
By the end of 1921, the Bolsheviks had emerged victorious, and under Lenin's determined and uncompromising leadership, set about building a new socialist order. The Soviet Union, created in 1922, emerged as a world superpower following the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. But it would always remain a single-party state, where all opposition or dissent was ruthlessly suppressed.
Yeah.
Those brief hopes for Russian democracy that flowered amid the euphoria of the February Revolution were extinguished by the Bolshevik October Revolution and put beyond reach for decades to come.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
Bridgman Images are the leading supplier of art.
And that's it, man. Wow. I kind of knew my part of what was going on because, like, Oversimplified, I remember a few things from that. That's why when they killed the family, like, you know, in the base, I'm like, oh yeah, I learned that from Oversimplified. And, but, like, I didn't realize that until, you know, they said that, like, you know, duh. But damn, ruthless. And as we know, the Soviets stayed in power, you know, till like late last century. Damn, and then like I wasn't like I didn't know it was really cool to us how like I didn't realize like where the Soviet Union had their name. I thought maybe it was just like another name for Russia. You know, I just thought maybe, I don't know. So that was kind of cool to learn how that kind of all took place and whatnot. But anyways, guys, definitely another great video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys hit that like and subscribe. And to be honest, I still don't know what my next video will be for tomorrow. So stay tuned, right? I really am up in the air of what I'm going to do. We'll figure it out, right, guys? But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. But another great series. And on to, I don't know where we're going on to. Where are we traveling to next, guys? Where we learned about this time? You know, what kind of cool people are we gonna, I don't know, find out? Whatever they're doing. I don't know. I'm tripping over my words, which means it's time to say goodnight because it is actually pretty late here. And yeah, you guys have a wonderful night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching with me. And yeah, I think that's it. Peace.